Film Villains here
What is
tonight.
up?
Bye.
Welcome to Film Villains. Today we have none other than legendary horror filmmaker Jeffrey Reddick. He's also the creator of Final Destination. Let's get into it. What is up, Jeffrey?
Hey, how are you doing? All right.
Hey, man.
Thanks for the pump up there at the beginning.
I did not write that whatsoever, so as you can tell.
No, man, that was so polished. Come on. Dude,
Yes,
thank you so much for joining us, Jeffrey. This is going to be fun.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure.
dude, I haven't seen. When was the last time we even saw each other? I have
It's
no
been too long. It's been too long.
Yeah, I don't know where are you hiding out? Are you?
No, I've just been busy, working on just work, no social life, just work.
Okay.
So the business has changed a lot. So it's you have to do a lot more when you have a script, and back in the old days you could just go out with a good script and sell it. Now you have to like package a script, and it's just a lot more involved than it used to be. So
Yeah, I'm working on that myself right now. And that was actually going to be one of the first questions I asked you was in between movies and the state of Hollywood, how it is right now, like how have you been surviving with all of this? Like what do you do besides writing, besides directing?
I've stepped more into producing, and mainly because I have stuff that I want to get made that I've written, and also I've come across great scripts over the years I want to get off the ground, but just kind of realizing that I do have to like do the work and get like a director and some talent attached, which is hard to do when you don't have a studio already or a distributor. It's just been navigating that, and it's been working. Like we've had some, obviously the success of the new Final Destination certainly doesn't hurt. But one of my new horror films, it's probably the darkest film I've written, has a gay lead in it. And, so that's kind of helped at least open doors with managers, because there's a lot of great gay talent out there that aren't getting the kind of complex roles that they'd like. So, so, I'm being very strategic on the business side of show business, which, when you're creative, like it's frustrating that you have to even deal with it, but you want to get your stuff made and you want to get it out there, and so we also started OnlyFans.
Yeah. I can give you a few pointers how to get real popular on OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the business part of it is the painful part sometimes. So I totally feel you, man. That's the not fun side of it.
Yeah.
So did you find at the beginning of your career, like you didn't want to write a gay lead necessarily, or like edit yourself at all for the masses versus now doing that?
Yeah, no, it was a weird time. I mean, I started off, working at New Line Cinema in the early 90s, and I can't think of a better place to have been in a better time to have worked, because the biggest difference then was, the studios were ran by film lovers. Bob Shaye, obviously, Mike DeLuca, Richard Brenner, Sarah Risher, like all those people at New Line at the time, like loved movies, and they would take chances on like Blade and Dumb and Dumber and House Party and My Own Private, like movies that nobody else studios would touch. So, but it was also like when I first moved to New York, I wanted to be an actor, and I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And just the reality of the time back then was, my agent said, "You're really talented, but you're like an ethnic Michael J. Fox, like a Boy Next Door." And I'm like, "Well, that's great. Everybody loves Michael J. Fox." And she said, "Yeah, but they don't write roles for ethnic Michael J. Foxes." And, so literally everything that was coming in was like, pimp or basketball player or, drug dealer. And obviously I probably could have pulled that off, but it's certainly not where my natural skill set lies.
Wait, you weren't a pimp in college or what?
I was not a pimp. I found an old picture, and I looked very Belle Biv DeVoe with my like long curly hair, my acid wash jeans. But no, and it was also, so I knew that part of the business, like, is open-minded as Hollywood was, like, they were still a very narrow lane, and it was even worse if you were gay back then. You know, people don't seem to realize how far we've come in such a short period of time, and now we're kind of regressing on everything. But like when I was growing up, like nobody was out. Like I knew people were gay because they died of AIDS. You know, that's how I like. It's like, oh, this person's gay, and this. So you know, it wasn't until like Clive Barker. You know, I think that he was the first out writer that I heard of, and so I found his work. And you know, I worked at the house that Freddie built, and I still remember like when Nightmare 2 came out. You know, that movie was like, they blamed it on Mark Patton basically tanking. They're like, well, you know, he was an effeminate guy and all this stuff, so they basically outed him to blame him for the movie, even though they wrote a stupid comedy after one of the most terrifying movies of all time that broke all the rules of the first movie. And they put all the gay stuff in there. Like Bob Shaye was at a leather bar, you know, all this in the script. And then I just remember as it was coming out, I saw it. I was like, well, this is a stupid movie. Like, it's not serious. And then, wow, it's got a lot of gay stuff in it. And then I would see these interviews where the writer and director were like, well, we didn't put gay stuff in there. It's all Mark Patton's fault. So, you know, it was a different time back then. And over the years, you know, I know to your average viewer, because you can see it, you see a lot of content, you know, with gay characters, especially on TV. I think TV's where, you know, Greg Berlanti's really blazed a great trail with his DC universe and stuff. But I've had characters, you know, de-gayed, like in my movie After Final Destination, Tamara, like the lead was supposed to be a lesbian. So that's why when you watch the movie, like her and the guy you think would like hook up never do. And so they took that out, and I've had, you know, ethnic characters just cast with white actors. Like it's been a fight behind the scenes, like just to even have a gay character. As of like 5 years ago, like I had a movie, and there was a really great gay character in it. We're finally getting it back off the ground, but we cast like I'm not going to say who it is because, you know, don't need to start any crap with the person, but it's somebody that you wouldn't think is a great actor, but did a phenomenal job. It was a reality person was really popular at the time. Okay. And they were like, oh, well, he doesn't want to play gay. And I'm like, but the character doesn't do anything gay. Like, you know, like he doesn't kiss a guy. He doesn't, you know, he's just, that's just part of his personality. Yeah. And so then they made me like take out the couple of lines that reference that. And so it's, yeah. So it's, you know, it's all these little battles. And then, you know, you're kind of happy for the victories that they get through. But, you know, certainly being out in the 90s and also being a person of color in the 90s did not help my career at all. If anything, it caused problems. You know,
I mean, to what you said, so much has changed. Like the 90s were a different time, you know, and you know, I might be a little younger than you, but I do know like the shift in culture, and as you're saying, it's kind of maybe going backwards now, or definitely is, but yeah, like so props to you for, you know, being a fighter to get those voices and people represented, you know what I'm saying, in cinema, because it's super important, and it's always been important. I'm glad people
much
are
like
finally
death, success can't be stopped. So
exactly. Yes.
And it's, you know, and it wasn't even like some kind of mission thing. It's just a lot of it's just, you know, write what you know. And, you know, I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, which, you know, was when I grew up there, was very backwards as far as, you know, racial, you know, progress and certainly being gay as well. But, you know, I saw over time people change because they just needed exposure to people, because all they grew up with was what they had learned or saw on television and had these stereotypes in their heads. And so once people got to know you as a person, it shifted their perspective. So like you said, progress is inevitable. You know, the world always moves forward. But now we're in this weird place where, people are really trying to drive us back to, like, I don't know, the good old days when nobody had rights. And, you know, you know, they're playing on a lot of fear and they're playing on a lot of grievances, that, I think classism has a lot to do with it. There are a lot of poor white people out there that feel left behind, which when you're talking about everybody else but them, I can understand that for sure. But there's also, people are very sneaky about blaming everybody else for those problems, as opposed to being like, we're not actually helping you. It's these people's fault that you're, poor.
Pointing this direction instead of this direction.
Yeah.
For sure.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get on a soapbox there.
Oh, no, you're good. The way I look at it.
This is the time we live in. The soapbox is there,
I try not to put, I don't care what someone's political or religious or personal beliefs are, as long as they're getting their head smashed by a log or getting in an epic car crash or getting wrecked on a roller coaster, I'm here for it.
Yeah. I don't think and that's the thing, is if you make good movies, like I don't think people really care. It's like, I remember when New Line did Blade, people seem to forget that was the first Marvel, black superhero movie. And people all the other studios are like, nobody's going to pay to see a black vampire killer. Like, and then you have Sinners coming out, which is, it's a great movie with the, mostly black cast. And it's about the black experience, but it's also about the human experience. And it's doing really well with everybody because people, we want to see good stories. And yes, we like to see ourselves represented on screen. But the bottom line is we're all human. So we all have the same basic needs and desires and fears and things. So if you write a human story, it doesn't matter what color it comes in or, what the package is. If you're telling a good story that kind of connects with people. And with horror, it's like, fun. I like writing fun kills just because I grew up loving that shit.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah. So what was the horror movie? Like, I kind of know the answer here, but tell everyone what's the movie that really sparked your love for horror?
It was the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And I went in with low expectations because I didn't know at the time that there was something that happened in the printing process where the film print it kind of got washed out a little bit. So I when I saw the preview even on TV, I'm like, this looks a little cheap or whatever. And I still remember every moment about watching that movie, and it fucking blew me away. I mean, it was just, it was original. I mean, Wes Craven, I started studying him, and he was just such a smart man. Yep. But, the characters are likable. The story was great. I thought Tina was going to be the lead, and when she got killed, I was like, holy fuck. And every sequence, I still can just watch all those nightmare sequences. They're just brilliant. And Nancy was one of the first active final girls that I had seen in a film. Like, we have had many great scream queens, before her, like many great actresses, but the roles usually before that were just like
survivor.
She was the last girl. Yeah, she was the last girl who found all of her friends' bodies and then fought the killer. And Nancy was the first person that was like immediately knew something was up, started researching, booby trapped, and and then I started reading. I read Fangoria and all the thought that Wes Craven put behind it, and all the subtext, and that really fueled just opened my mind to like this genre can be so much more than just like the blood.
Yeah,
good enough, for me at that point.
Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to talk to Wes?
I finally did. It's a funny story because New Line, there was a documentary called The House That Freddie Built, and it was a history of New Line, and they interviewed me. And Wes was coming in like an hour after me, and they were like, if you want to met Wes, hang around. And I literally, and I'm like in my 30s at this point, but I was so nervous. I'm like, no, I don't want to impose, so I said no. And then of course I beat myself up for years for that. But then I went to the Last House on the Left remake screening, and he was there, and I had a friend introduce me, and, I talked to him. We ended up talking for like 20 minutes. He was like the nicest. He was so gracious with his time. Like, he was just everything I'd heard about him from everybody. I was like, oh man, he's everything everybody says he is. Just such a smart, gracious, man.
Yeah, he was just amazing guy. I got to do a little thing with him where I was the contestant on a reality show, and we were all trying to make a film. It was a pilot, And so I got to have him just come sit down with us and discuss our movie, be on set with us while we're filming, in the editing bay, and just have little conversations with him. And then, you know, once it was done, we were all like, "Oh, can we get autograph?" You know, there was like picture time. But before that, we were all trying to be professional and cool. But yeah, man, and that was probably about a year before he left us. So yeah, you know, those kind of people, I always, especially for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Nightmare on Elm Street, like if I meet anybody like Heather or any of the people from Nightmare 3, I always thank them for making the movie, and just, you know, because that's why I'm sitting here, and it's changed my life, you know, why I'm a weirdo. I mean, I was already a weirdo, but I'm, you know, I embrace
an identity for your weirdo-ness.
Yeah, I embrace the weird.
You gotta find your kind.
So
is it true, Jeffrey, that you wrote a prequel to Nightmare on Elm Street?
It is true. Yeah, I kind of went home like the weekend after I watched the movie, and I'm 14 years old. This 14-year-old hillbilly, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. So I just banged out a prequel like on onion paper and had to white out a lot of crap. You know, this is like really old school. And I mailed it to Bob Shaye, and then he sent it back, you know, just saying, "I'm sorry, we don't take unsolicited material." And then I mailed it to him again, and I'm like, "Look, sir, I've spent like $3 on your films. I think you can take 5 minutes to read my story." And so he read it, and he wrote me back, and he was very encouraging. He's like, "You know, you have a great imagination. You know, I would suggest that you study the craft behind screenwriting." And over the years, like between age 14 and 19, like I would stay in touch with his assistant, Joy Mann, who was such a dear woman to me and such a great influence on me. And I would call her collect, and she would take my, because I didn't know at that, again, I didn't know this was not normal. And she would send me posters and scripts. And then when I went to New York when I was 19, I got an internship at the company, and then I just ended up staying.
Awesome. Awesome.
How close is it to the pilot episode of Freddy's Nightmares?
Oh, it's that.
Better than that? Okay.
No, it's not even bad. No, it's just exactly that. It's like, oh, creepy janitors murdering the kids, and then they figure out who it is, and then he goes on trial and he gets, you know, I'm 14. Yeah. You know, I was working with what I had.
Yep.
Awesome.
I'm the same way when it comes to Nightmare, like writing my own stories, but also kind of copy. You know, I was probably about 11 or 12 when I first started writing Nightmare on Elm Street stories and turning them in as class projects. So, and drawing pictures. I have all of them. So someday when you come over, Jeffrey, I'm gonna have to show you all my drawings. I don't think you've ever seen those.
No, I haven't.
Drawings. Yeah. Yeah. So what was your first meeting? Like the first time you met Bob Shaye, because he's already this towering person in your life as a young person. How was that meeting him?
It was really cool. Like he was a very, I mean, he's still with us, but he's definitely a very intimidating man. You know, he's just he's a tough guy. He's just a no bullshit. You know, like, I mean, he started off selling, you know, going around college campuses, distributing like for students to watch like John Waters movies. Like that's how he got his start in distribution.
No shit.
Like, yeah. So, I mean, he built this empire with him, you know, him and his wife by themselves. So, you know, he was a tough, no bullshit kind of guy. But he did have a soft spot for me because I, you know, wrote him that letter when I was 14. So he when he first met me, he was just like, "Come here, kid," and he gave me a hug, and you know, and when I first started, I think I was probably the only person at the company that never got yelled at, even by the mean executives that yelled at people. And there were only a couple. But most of them were amazing. But yeah, I never got yelled at because everybody kind of knew that I was that kid.
Nice. Under the wing kind of kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and Joy, man. Yeah. Joy was like, I did get yelled at one time, and Joy was going to go ballistic. And I was like, no. I messed up on this. Like, no.
Yeah,
I deserve that one.
Yeah, I deserve that one. So
tell us about the origins of Final Destination then, and actually how you decided to present it to New Line.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I came up the kernel of the idea came when I was flying home to Kentucky, and I read an article, and I think it was in People, I'm not sure, but there was a woman who was on vacation, and her mother called her and said, "Don't take the flight you're on tomorrow. I have a bad feeling about it." So she switched flights, and the plane that she was supposed to be on crashed. So I was like, that's interesting. And I didn't have an idea for a story yet. I just thought that was kind of interesting, but it was percolating like, well, what if she's supposed to die in that crash? And then what if she cheated death? And then it turned into like premonition. So to get a TV agent, you had to write a spec script for something that was popular on TV at the time. So I wrote a spec script for the X-Files, which was like my favorite show at the time. And Scully's brother had the premonition, and it was actually a really solid script. But one of my friends at New Line, Mark Kaufman, was like, "Don't send this to the X-Files. Like this is a great idea for a feature."
Okay.
So this was like back in the time when you could sell treatments to the studios and have them, pay you to write the scripts. Back in the good old days. And I'd written several scripts over the years before this one. Some had actually made it to weekend read, which was like a huge accomplishment, but most of them like got passes. So I was getting better as a writer, but I knew that I needed to be like strategic on this one. So one of my friends, Chris Bender, had just started working for Craig Perry and Warren Zide, who were producing this movie at the time called American Pie. Yeah. And they had a first look deal at New Line. So Chris said, they're looking to do a horror film. So I sent over like 3 ideas, and thankfully they picked this one.
Okay.
Yeah. And we developed it. For like probably 8 or 9 months. It was a pretty long, like originally they were all adults. And then Scream came out and was a hit. And they're like, do you mind making them teenagers? Or we're like, nope, no problem. Change them to teenagers. Our biggest thing was like, I didn't want to show like death. And I was very, very clear. And this was a consistent thing, is like, I didn't want to tie death into any kind of cultural or religious kind of iconography, because I knew how the business worked as well. Like, the worldwide was important, but also I wanted it to have as vast of a appeal as possible. And the studio was having a really hard time with that. So at the end of the day, before I sold the treatment, I did put like an angel of death character in there that kind of, it's not actually killing them. It was very Nightmare. Honestly, my version was very Nightmare on Elm Street influence. So death was still killing them in the order they would have died, but it was basically preying on their survivor's guilt and kind of throwing them into these like terrifying, like survival guilt things where they would end up killing themselves in ways that look like suicides.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very dark.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they had me write the first draft, and they were really happy with it, and they went out to people, and eventually they met with James Wong and Glenn Morgan, and James Wong and Glenn Morgan, actually, I thought it was very karmic that they went to them. I remember because Bob Shaye even asked me, he's like, "What do you think about these X-Files guys?" I'm like, "They're fucking awesome. Like they've done some of my favorite things." And they also came at the project like not wanting to show death, and they came up with the Rube Goldberg design, which I think was great, because I knew that my version would be like Nightmare on Elm Street-y, that like would get in the Nightmare on Elm Street horror crowd. But when I saw what they were doing, I was like, oh shit, this is brilliant, because this even opens it up wider than just horror audiences. So I always give them so much props for that, because it really, I think, opened the franchise up in a way that the Nightmare on Elm Street, mindfucky version would have been more horror centric.
That's interesting. That so you weren't working at New Line at the time. You were just friends with Chris Bender, and then
I was working at New Line.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, and Chris worked with me. Yeah, I started working there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 19, so I stayed at New Line through Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, through Final Destination. And after I sold the treatment for the second one, that's when they finally were like, Jeffrey, I was out of the New York office. I wasn't in the LA office, but they were like, Jeffrey, you're like a professional writer now. So you need to go out into the world and be a big boy writer. But yeah, so I worked with Chris Bender at New Line. So he started working for them, and they had a first look deal. And so I was like, I need to get some producers on board to go back to the studio. Otherwise they'll just think, oh, this is just Jeffrey with another script. Not that that's a bad thing, but when you've been in house so long, you certainly know that almost everybody at New Line was writing the script. And New Line made a lot of scripts from people that worked there. They were one of the few companies that did that. But I knew strategically, like, I needed to kind of partner with some producers that, especially, they had a first look deal, so that meant if New Line passed, it would go somewhere else. And I also knew that New Line probably would not pass on something that was good and let another studio pick it up.
Okay. Yeah, they were smart.
Yeah.
They were smart.
So so then James and Glenn, wrote the shooting script, and the movie came out, and it was truly a word of mouth hit. Like, it opened, I think, at number 3 at the box office, and most horror movies drop like 50%, but they were tracking it during the week, and it was actually going up every day. And so the second weekend it was actually higher, and so it kept going, and it kept going. So it was a true word of mouth hit that really, I always had faith in it, but you never know with movies. But this it was cool to see, like, you're at the studio watching, like, the tracking every day, and it's like, oh shit, the numbers are going up, and so everybody's getting more and more excited. So that's why I'm always so great. I've always been grateful for the fans. I mean, obviously that's why we have careers of any kind. But the Final Destination fans especially have been amazing, because if it wasn't for the word of mouth on that, it wouldn't be the franchise that it is today.
And it's like the same thing's happening with the newest one too, because the buzz around it has just been, like, palpable. I'm like, I'm pretty stingy when it comes to going to a movie theater, but I was like, I gotta go see that. So it's like they keep that going, man. That's awesome.
Well, there's consistency, which is great. Craig and his producing partner Sheila are amazing producers. Like, they are so protective of this film franchise. Richard Brenner is still there. Him and Brian Witten and Mike DeLuca is back at New Line. Bob was, brave enough to make it in the first place, a movie where you don't have an actual killer. So there's been consistency on both sides. And the thing that I loved about this team that came together is it really was like an A-team. Like, John Watts wrote the Spider-Man movies, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. He wrote the story for this. I mean, but he's a fan. Like, he's a huge fan of the franchise. And Guy Busick and Laurie Evans Taylor were fans as well. And, and then Adam Stein and Zach Lipinski, who had done Freaks, which I loved. Like, they were just there. And I met them and talked to all of them, and they were all such fans that they brought that. And so nobody,
you can tell.
Yeah. Nobody was like,
Ackerman and I saw it together, and, like, right when it ended, I mean, we were clapping and yelling at the screen the whole movie, but the second it ended, I was like, that was made, like, by the fans for the fans. Like, that was a love letter to the franchise. Like,
yes,
so well done.
Yeah, no, they did an amazing job. And I had talked to Guy and Laurie before they started writing the script, and I know they talked to James and Glenn as well. And for me, it was like the two, and I won't spoil anything, but the two key. Well, one is it's like, you've got to make sure Tony Todd is in it, because there was one movie where they didn't use him, but I'm like, he has to be in this one. And then also I wanted them to kind of make canon the fate of a character that was, like, had cheated death, basically, like, as part of, because it was movie canon, but DVD extras had kind of ruin that. And I was like, can we just make this canon, please, for the film?
Nice.
And so they did that as well, which was, so I was very happy about that. But everything, they just really came at it with, like, a lot of passion and imagination. And it's literally one of my favorites. Like, it's in the top 2 for me, like, just because they did put so much into it.
Yeah, I think for all of us too. I think at least Alex and I were like, okay, that's number 2, maybe even number 1 now for us. Don't tell Jeffrey Reddick.
No, trust me. I'm so grateful just that this has had legs,
Yep.
And I'm a obviously I came up with the concept, and I'm very happy that the log truck scene has kind of become synonymous with the franchise because you know, I came up with that. Kentucky too. I always give a shout out to my home state.
Nice.
You know, I was driving behind a log truck for when that scene came to me. But we've had such an amazing group of people, like, you know, writing, directing, acting in these films. Like, I'm just happy that, again, we have like producers and the executives who are passionate about keeping the quality level up. And you know, I know the only time, and I only bring this up because I know people always bring it up. I know there's like the fourth one, people are like, you know, kind of, that's, people are like, oh, that one's, you know, not as strong as the other ones. But the thing about the fourth one is they had to write that, like, they had to write the script and have the script submitted to the WGA in final form. Like, you had to shoot the script. So the strike kind of came out of nowhere, and so they had to just rush the script on that one. So I enjoy all of them. You know, I think as far as quality goes, like, there's not one that's like bad. Like, so, you know, like, but I do think, like, you know, Bloodlines. I do think Bloodlines and for me, Final Destination 2, just because I got to do a lot of fun sequel stuff that I wanted to do with that one. And at the story level, those are like my two favorites. But I think 5 and the first one and the third one and the fourth, like, they're all good.
I'm huge on part 1. Final Destination was one of my favorite movies in my very formative years. So thank you, sir. Like, for real. I was a huge you know, Devon Sawa fan, and obviously that one was early in Sean William Scott's career as well, and he's just gone on to have such a great career. So
Craig, that was another. Craig was like, because originally that character was kind of like a frumpy, kind of overweight dork kind of kid. And Craig was like, there's this guy in American Pie that you guys have to cast in this movie because he is going to blow the F up. And so when they cast him, like, Craig and those guys knew what American Pie, I think, was going to be, and saw his potential. And obviously I think I love the whole cast. Like, I've gotten to know them over the years. Devin is a good friend of mine, and just brings it as if, you know, such a layer. I think
one of my favorite actors. Honestly, really, really, really strong actor. I love Devin. Even I love his whole catalog.
Yeah, and he's such a good dude. He's just a good dude. When you see him with his wife and kids, he's like, you know, I don't want to spoil his image, but, you know, he's walking around. He's got his like dad sweater on, and he's making sure everybody's like else is okay. You know,
nice.
You know, so he's just a good guy. So, but yeah, like, there've been some really just great people that have, you know, Eric Bress and J. Mackie Gruber, who wrote the script for the second one, and David Ellis, who directed it. Like, the movie wouldn't be what it is without them. You know, like, they really brought in the humor, and, you know, brought these characters to life. You know, and the characters different than mine. Like, Kimberly was in there, and, you know, I did set up that you thought you were maybe following these teenagers, and then I murdered them all off. You know, because I think that was fun to do. But, you know, they brought them to life, and then David Ellis was such a great director for that one. Like, that opening scene.
Oh yeah.
Like, because he had a stunt background. So we just were like, okay, we can just like let him go. And, you know, he's going to make this better than anything that we can write. And he did. So I think it was just, again, there was fun, and there was a love there for the franchise itself, and this people really coming from a place of like gratitude, you know, to be working, especially the cast of this one. I mean, they have grown up on them, so it is funny talking to them because they were like, "Oh my God, we're so honored to be in a Final Destination movie." But
I know. Yeah, I was emailing with Breck Bassinger, who plays the lead, the lead girl in the flashbacks of the new movie.
Young Iris, yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to have her come on the show soon.
Yeah, she's amazing too. Like,
she's wonderful.
My sister came to I got to bring my sister out to the premiere, and she was like geeking out because she got to meet Stargirl. You know, because both love Stargirl. So Breck, she's so talented. Everybody did such a good job in that movie.
Yep. So,
yeah, I just love it. Fucking love it.
So Alex has some questions for you. Alex, you ready?
Okay, Jeffrey, what we're going to do is like a lightning round. I don't want you to think too much. It's just
I
kind
don't
of a
think
this or that kind of stuff. Okay. Then you're on the right show. All right, so rapid fire.
Yes,
Michael Myers or Leatherface?
Leatherface.
Freddy or
That's
Chucky?
correct. No, I'm just kidding.
Freddie. I don't know who else you said, but Freddie.
Chucky.
Freddie
Yeah, I already knew the
Oh,
answer to that. I think
fuck.
that's why I
No, I'm
whispered it.
sorry, Don Mincini. I love you and I love Chucky.
It's two heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Jigsaw or Jason?
Ooh, Jason for nostalgia.
All right, movie round. Lost Boys or Monster Squad?
Oh, Lost Boys. They're hot.
Very true.
That was my formative years.
Night of the Living Dead or Return of the Living Dead?
Oh man, Night of the Living Dead, but they set Return of the Living Dead in Kentucky. So, but Night of the Living Dead.
Double
Hands
shout out. Okay.
Yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show or Little Shop of Horrors?
Damn you. Rocky Horror Picture Show. Wow, you don't make these easy.
Pink Flamingos or Female Trouble?
Pink Flamingos. That filthy, filthy movie.
Dream Warriors or New Nightmare?
Ooh.
Oh, I'm
that's
going to get my
brutal.
ass kicked on this one, but I'm going to say New Nightmare.
I'm gonna kick your ass on that one.
I know.
I agree with
bro.
you. You got
No.
it.
Yeah.
I can
That
explain.
is the correct answer.
I can explain
We'll
later.
explain that.
Oh, later afterwards.
No, after we're done with this, I'll explain why.
Oh, okay.
Would you rather write or produce?
At this point, produce, because I've written a lot that I want to get made.
Would you rather produce or direct?
Probably produce because directing takes a lot of time. Yeah, you got to be,
You can produce several things at once.
you can produce. Yeah, I can produce a lot more than I still like directing, but yeah, I'm at the age now where it's like I want to get as much done as I can. I don't mean just like crapping out stuff. I mean, I want to get my stuff, some other stuff. I want to be in a position where I can help other filmmakers, and I think producing is the best way to really do that.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Would you rather write alone or in a group?
I like writing alone. Or do you mean like at a coffee shop, or you mean like a group of writers?
No, like a group of writers.
Oh, you know what? I did work in a writer's room, fucking with a group of writers. Actually, yeah, heaven.
Was it
Heaven.
fun?
Oh my god, it was like literally heaven. Yeah, I worked on 2 animated shows in an NBC Midnight Texas season, and I'm like, fucking put me on a TV show anytime. Like this is so much better than sitting at home torturing yourself.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Would you rather work with actors or with editors?
Actors. I grew up around them and was a theater major, so.
Those editors are fucking weirdos, right?
No, they save movies. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
I have a high respect for editors and what they can fucking really save a movie. But I just love. I mean, I'm still like an actor at heart, so there's the part of me that loves hanging out with that. Yeah.
All right. Last two: slow burn or jump scares?
I'm more of a jump scare guy because they work. A cat flies out of a closet or a sting, and I'm like, like a 12-year-old in a theater. So,
Fair enough.
Yep.
Would you rather see the premonition or live in blissful ignorance?
Live in blissful ignorance.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Too much anxiety in knowing, right?
Yeah.
So you said you would say why New Nightmare instead of Dream
Okay.
Warriors?
Yeah.
Well,
Because I agree.
There's 2 reasons, and one is a bratty thing, but I also read so many comic books growing up that New Nightmare. I mean, Dream Warriors. I do love it, but I feel like, and I know it was because of budget. They just kind of gave a character like one little scene where they could do something with their powers, and then they just killed them. So that part. I love the idea of it, but I'm such a big comic fan that when I saw that, I love that they brought Nancy back, but I hated that they killed her. Like that.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable. But I understand the appeal of it. I love the movie, but with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, like that was kind of the first meta. I mean, I'm sure there may have been meta movies before that. I'm sure there were, but that was like before Scream came out, and so I loved seeing Heather Langenkamp playing Heather Langenkamp and Robert Englund and Bob Shaye playing Bob Shaye and New Line. Like I just that was that just kind of rooted me back into like my early days of working at New Line. It just so it hit me on a more personal level. And so I love the meta. So I love the meta aspect of it, and I loved seeing have all the OG people back, or the Wes Craven playing himself, and this idea that he'd kind of contain this evil in the films. I thought was really, really clever and smart, and
yeah.
I can buy that.
So oh wait, is that the wrong one? Oh, that's the wrong one. Here, hold on. I wanted to show this. Jeffrey, is this your fault? Did you?
No, I blame everything on Adam and Zach and Lori and Guy Busey.
Oh, man.
Look at this theater.
Nobody was killed, thankfully. Yeah. So I did because I was getting.
We can laugh at it.
I was getting like them all ever since it happened. Like I've been getting stuff, and I'm like, as long as people don't see, I don't want to see anything where somebody dies. But yeah, I completely blame John Watts and Adam. Adam and Zach and Lori and Guy for the every because the penny, I don't know why. I love the fucking penny in the new movie.
Oh yeah.
And I just didn't know it was gonna play because I told Craig I didn't want to he offered to send me the script early, and I was like, I want to go in blind, I want to see the finished film. I don't want to get it piecemealed.
Yeah.
But that penny, starting with that bratty kid, who's I think the brattiest kid I've seen in a movie in a long time. And now, the penny is like a star, and now the government's not making pennies anymore.
Oh,
so coincidence or
you killed the penny, dude.
We're just the franchise is just mucking everything up for people.
So I want to move on to some logline trivia. So I'm gonna say a logline from a poster from a movie you've either written or produced, Jeffrey Reddick.
Okay, this is gonna be awful.
Yeah, so let's see how you hold up here. And then you have many movies, so this might be difficult. All right, the first number one. The Doctor Will Slay You Now.
Oh, New Year's Eve. Shoo.
And that is correct.
Yes.
We've got one.
We are actually talking to a distributor right now, so hopefully we'll have an announcement pretty soon on when that one comes out. But that's one that I produced with some guys in Kentucky. It's a really fun. Okay, I'm glad.
It looks great. I'm hyped for that one, by the way.
And Felissa Rose and Dave Sheridan, their friends, so it's great to see you.
It's got a cool cast, and what I love about it is it's bloody, but it's also just got this kind of raunchy sense of humor that you don't see in films anymore or as much.
Good.
So there's not nudity, sadly, for anybody that gets excited about nudity. There's no nudity, but the humor is just very un-PC. Stuff that I would say with my friends, but I wouldn't say on a podcast. It's just a fun, bloody slasher film.
I would never get excited about nudity, Jeffrey. So I don't know.
I don't anymore.
I've never seen it. I don't even know what it is.
What is nudity? Yeah, I know. I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know.
All right, number two. For every beginning, there is an end.
Oh man, I just forget if that's the first one or the second one. I think it's the first one. First Destination.
First Final Destination. It is not. It is number two.
I was trying to remember. because I know the log it creeps across the screen. So
I don't have it on mine, Christian. I was trying to cheat.
Yeah,
here.
it's it may not be a super.
It's in the trail. Yeah, I remember it coming up, and so I was trying to picture in my head like which if it was one or two.
Yeah. All right, here's the next one. Revenge has a killer body.
Tamra, which is one of my guilty pleasures.
Yeah, there we go.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Love that.
And you wrote that movie, or you wrote it?
Yeah, I wrote that, and it was super quick. I wrote it, and it was an homage to Carrie. You know, I love Carrie. I just don't like you have to wait for the last 20 minutes for her to get back at everybody. But this is a script that Lionsgate picked up for distribution based off the script, and then we had some private equity people coming in and investing, and one group didn't put in the money they were supposed to, and then all of a sudden they wanted to like tone down some of the edgier sexual stuff and some of the violence, and so I still really enjoy the movie. Yeah, it's just when Lionsgate saw it, they're like, this isn't the script we bought, so we're just putting it out to video.
Okay.
So I feel like it's more of a PG version of a. When you're watching it, you're like, oh, if they it looks like they were going to go somewhere edgy with this, but then they didn't, and so that was my only qualm. But I love the cast in the film, and
cool.
Yeah, it's
cool. All right, here we go. Number 4, The Need to Feed.
Oh, that's probably the most popular movie I've ever done because people love remakes of George Romero movies. Day of the Dead.
There it is. There it is. All right. What are you 2? You're 3 for 4 right now. I did not until today realize that you wrote Day of the Dead, the remake. So yeah, and I have it here on my shelf, but I haven't watched it in forever, so I do not remember it. But
if you watch it and just put another title in your brain, it's really fun.
Yeah. But okay. Yeah. If you're trying to compare it to,
it's one of those movies. When I got hired to write it, the pitch that I wrote was very faithful to the original. But then as I started writing it, they kept making me change everything, and it got to the point where I was like, guys, like we're gonna get murdered for doing a remake, even if we did like the Tom Savini remake of Night, which I thought was great. Yeah. Even if we did like a great version, we would still get killed. But if you're taking it so far away from the original that the fans are going to, and this was the only time that I really fought like with the studio, because I knew, but I still, all that aside, I think if you watch it without it being, without that title on it, it's really fun.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to rewatch it. Really that.
Fun zombie movie.
Cool. All right, number 5. Death is only the beginning. That's every movie of yours.
I mean, I
can you remember all the movies you've made?
No. I'm just trying to.
I can't.
I'm trying to think because sometimes people would put death and stuff to like, be a clever like touchstone to Final Destination, but.
Yeah, this is it's on a few of the posters, and Final Destination wasn't on the poster here that I'm looking at.
Death is only the beginning. So it wasn't Dead Awake.
It was Dead Awake.
Okay, that's the wrong Dead Awake, motherfucker.
Really?
Ha!
What?
I have now made a fool out of you on your
own. Man.
You got
48 minutes.
Yeah.
My Dead Awake
own research, bro. This is what happens.
No. I that is the wrong movie, but this is awesome. No, Dead Awake was about sleep paralysis. It had
shit, yeah. Oh,
Jocelyn Donahue, Bria Grant.
Yeah, god damn it. I know about that. Okay, oops.
Voted off the island again.
Last minute, I'm getting voted off the island.
Don't vote off the island. Just give me that 1 point I lost.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. I think
4 for 4.
Let's bargain here.
All right, here we go. Jeffrey Reddick, logline trivia. Your dreams will become your nightmare.
This is something I worked on?
This is something that you worked on.
Are you sure, Christian?
It says I'm for sure, and it says Final Destination at the top of this poster. You know, from the creator of.
Say the log line one more time.
Your dreams will become your nightmare.
That might be. Oh man, it was called it might be Sleep No More. I think it's probably Sleep No More would probably be the one. Okay,
That is it.
Nice.
yeah,
I know it's hard when you have multiple titles and stuff, right?
5 out of 5, unprecedented.
Hey. Yeah.
With one bargaining, I get 5 out of 5.
Oh no, you got 5 out of 5. Christian,
Okay.
-1 out of 1.
Yeah, I'm -1. All right, so technically, here's your number 6: 1 thief, 2 kids, 3 witches, no mercy.
So, and this is one of mine.
Yeah, apparently, I'm doubting myself now.
I gotta quit saying that now.
Either
No,
producer or writer on one of these.
Now I'm thinking about a movie that I've done with witches, and then besides Tamara, hang on. Okay, this is. I do not know this one. Say the log line one more time.
It is 1 thief, 2 kids, 3 witches, no mercy. I don't know.
That one is not. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, maybe. Dude, hopefully I'm not fucking screwing up again. Is this you?
Oh, fuck me! And I love that movie.
There we
I
go.
love that movie.
Yes.
The Night Sitter. Oh,
You're making me doubt myself now.
No,
Denver.
no.
We're trying to
You
make
have
you doubt
reason to
yourself.
doubt yourself.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I have a
no.
lot of reasons. You know.
No, The Night Sitter. I love that movie. Oh man.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. So that's I'm gonna have to watch that one because I already like that log line. So, all right, number 7, Karma is coming for us all.
Oh, that's Don't Look Back.
Oh wait, oh shit, hold on. Sorry, I'm getting the wrong thing. Share screen. This one.
Drum
Don't
roll.
look back. You are correct. There we go.
Yeah, that's my directorial debut. But it's an indie film. I'm proud of it. It's a cool movie. We got, I finally got to, we cast the best actress who happened to be black, but finally got to have a black lead in my film.
Okay.
But it's a cool movie.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to watch that one because I still have not seen that one. All right. Number 8, technically now. Death doesn't take no for an answer.
Well, I just don't know which one it is. I don't know which one. Let me see.
But you have to have a producer or a writer credit.
Well, no, that was only the second one. I get based on characters created by credit on all the third through the 5th ones.
Yeah, I'm not counting based on.
Oh, so then it must be the first one.
You are correct.
Oh yeah.
Oh, why don't I?
That one's right there.
It's in big red letters too.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah.
All right, number 10. For better or worse, ... much worse.
That's a good tagline.
Is this Till Death Do Us Part?
It is. Yay,
such a good
excellent.
movie. Yeah.
You scored 8 out of 9. And so the Night
And
Sitter
fucked
was
up
the
on Final
only
Destination
one.
1 and 2. So
Nice.
Excellent. Hunter, do you have some questions for Jeffrey?
Yeah. Hey, Jeffrey, I do appreciate you, brother. I wanted to I have just a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, before I get into my goofy questions, I'm actually genuinely curious. I saw a TikTok the other day about an alternate ending to the original Final Destination, and I was just curious if you had any insight. My understanding is that there was a through line where there was a pregnancy and a baby, and that Carter actually survives the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And I was just curious about how that change happened and
test screenings. Yeah, no, originally it was funny because in my original draft, Alex and her character's name was Kimberly in the original draft, and we named the lead in the second one Kimberly. But yeah, she got pregnant in my original draft, but in James and Glenn's shooting script as well, Alex and Clear, they had a baby. Alex died when he got shocked, and then it cut to like a more like a hopeful kind of sentimental ending where she had a baby that she named Alex, and then Carter kind of peeks his head in and says something to Allie Larder. And the test audiences, I think it's also with a horror movie, you kind of want to go out on a bang, but also the test audiences were like, wait, Alex is dead, and why is she hanging out with this asshole that's been nothing but an asshole in the whole movie? So the test audiences hated the ending, and thankfully Bob, again, they spent like $1 million to reshoot an ending, and James and Glenn wrote that ending, in France, which I just beautiful. Like, I think it's a perfect ending. Awesome. So, yeah, I thought that ending worked so much better for fans because, again, you leave the theater on a high, but it's nice, when you're writing, sometimes you want to end a story like emotionally and, sentimental, but sometimes audiences don't want that.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that the ending that made the final cut was correct because it did get that excitement, but I was just really fascinated by that because I was like, that would have been really interesting. And I was just curious in my own brain, like where the franchise would have gone had they stuck with that original ending potentially, but that was just my own personal question.
Yeah.
All right. I have several Final Destination 1 trivia questions for you. Very, very minutia details. I'm just curious.
Oh God. This is the trivia I suck at. I can't remember the log lines for the Final Destination. Go ahead.
I was just curious if there might be a relevance to some of this. So
okay.
So the it doesn't have to be trivia. What was the name of the movie poster in Devon Sawa's room is very prominently featured in the opening scene, and I'm curious if that was what the meaning was there. Do you remember what that was by chance? It doesn't have to even be a quiz, bro. To be honest.
Yeah. What was the poster?
It was Pecker.
Pecker. Oh, yeah. That was a New Line movie. I'm not sure exactly. James and Glenn were very. James directed it. It was very meticulous about like putting a lot of personal stuff in there. But Pecker was a New Line movie, so I'm sure that's part of the reason that was there. But I know like the John Diver song came from one of the guys like hearing that at the airport and being like, oh, he died in a plane crash. So there's a lots of finessing that goes in there. But the Pecker poster, I'm just sure that was probably the studio wanted to put one of their posters in.
Here's a trivia question that I think might have been potentially in the script, and I'm curious. The name of the model that Devon's character is looking at in the Penthouse magazine. I don't know if you remember that, but
you lost me at Penthouse.
No, it was really funny because her name was Time, and it was something like your time is coming.
Oh yeah, that was, again, that's what I love about the films is that was definitely a James and Glenn and production design.
Nice little touch, yeah. I rewatched part 1 and just noticed all these like tiny little things, and I was just like, I was curious. I figured they were all intentional, but or I know it was intentional, but I just was curious if it was a Reddick creation or not.
And the funny thing is, like, a lot of these things too, sometimes a lot, the director obviously will sign off on stuff, but with this franchise in particular, people are so excited, like they come up with like. I know in Bloodlines, like there was like, I didn't know this, but like on Tony Todd's desk, there's the rope that Todd gets hung from in the first movie is on his desk. And that was like props,
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, the directors and the writers will come up with some Easter egg stuff, but then you get a team of people around you who's like all in, and then they bring their ideas to the table too. So,
hell yeah,
yeah, you should. I'm sure. Yeah, for that. Yeah, the Penthouse, centerfold name was totally made up for that.
Nice. I figured as much. Cool, man. Hell yeah. I have some fun would you rathers that are if you're into it.
Before we get to that, do people have any questions?
There were a couple of questions in the comments. If you've got another minute, Jeffrey.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chris. So I have a movie I produced called The Other that's coming out June 13th on Quiver's putting it out on streaming, which I'm really excited about. My buddy Paul Etheridge. I think you know him, Chris.
No, I've never met him.
Oh, okay. Well, a point off for you. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm
a weirdo. I just sit in this room all day. I don't even know how I know you.
Yeah. So no, that movie's coming out. I'm really excited about it. It's about a family that adopts a foster child, and some weird things start happening, and you're not sure if it's the child or something that's after the child, and just a really fun movie we shot in Texas.
And you produced and wrote?
I just produced that one. Paul wrote and directed that one. And
you said it's called The Other?
The Other, yeah.
Cool.
And so that and New Fear's Eve are the things that producing wise. Well, I'm also producing another project that we'll be announcing very soon. With Lance Bass and Thomasville Pictures, and a really exciting writer-director. So we'll be announcing that soon. Cool. And then as far as my personal stuff, I've written this new script that we're going to be going out with that we're packaging right now. We have Russell McKay attached to direct, who I love as a director. I still remember Razorback. He was surprised when he talked, and that he's like, I'm like, dude, I'm 55. Oh yeah, of course I saw Razorback. But we have a really, I can't say who it is, but we've got a really great actor attached to play the lead, but we're just packaging some more elements on that. And then I have a monster script that I wrote that we're packaging. I have a slasher film that has been kind of dormant at Lionsgate for many years that finally is getting undormant.
Cool.
So I'm hoping that I'm pretty excited about
the next year.
This upcoming year still.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And Jimmy had one question too about your original Death villain. Do you see that one, Christian?
Yeah. So originally Death has a form. So that was when you were talking about whether or not Death would have a form when you're creating it.
No, well, in the script that I wrote, I didn't actually. All it was like just a shadow. You just saw this shadowy darkness, and it was an angel of death. So it was more like taunting Alex. It wasn't really death itself. So it was just this dark kind of undulating shadow. Like there was a scene in the subway where Carter, the character that eventually became Carter, gets hit by a subway car or jumps in front of a subway car, and so it's just like this shadowy, just darkness. So there wasn't really a form to it. It was enough in the script to give, the studio a sense that there was a thing.
Something there.
There was something there that people could see.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. I think we're gonna wrap it up with.
I'm so glad we never saw it because the mystery is so much better.
The mystery is, we were talking about Final Destination last week, and the thing I just fucking love about the whole franchise is the Death character, and the fact that it is this unseen force that has like this sick like sense of humor almost.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun. It's like literally like one of those underrated slasher villains, and I think it's just because you don't see it, but like the Death character in Final Destination is a fucking brutal, bro.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
And I think because in the way that I originally wrote it, it was definitely still a force, but it was more vicious because again, it was mind fucking these kids to commit suicide. Yeah. So James and Glenn really, I think with the Rube Goldberg thing, brought that sense of like fun, cat and mouse fun to it. Yeah. And then once they set up that template with the first one, like you know, when I went in with the story for the second one, like I knew what I could run with. And then Eric and Jay also, you know, they had some ideas for like the sequel and their group of characters. So it just kind of was a perfect marriage on the second film, you know, because I think they just wrote such a fun script for the second one as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad. I mean, I wish we had a toy line, but I look at most of the stuff that I've written and it's like, yeah, I keep writing movies where it's like karma, or it's a mystery and you don't know who the killer is, or it's just a regular killer, or it's so. Yeah, I need to work on I just want a toy. All my friends have toys. All my horror director, writer friends have toys.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what kind of toys they have. You may not want to see those toys, you know, weirdos.
Well, let's not judge anyone, Christian. We're all allowed to have some toys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're watching right now, thank you so much for joining Film Villains. We are one person away from 1,100 subscribers, so you could be the 1,100.
Push us over. Push them over.
Yeah. And thank you so much. So we're gonna leave this off with Hunter giving us some would you rather, or how many would you rathers, Hunter?
I got three. And they're very quick.
Okay,
we're lightning round three. Lightning round three.
Lightning round.
And they're exclusive to Mr. Reddick, the creator of Final Destination here. So
all right.
Would you rather die 1 minute from right now, or live for 10,000 years?
10,000 years.
Okay. Would you rather know the exact date of your death or the exact cause of your death?
Ugh, fuck. Cause.
And final one, would you rather be be about to take off on a plane and see somebody say the plane's going to crash and get carried off the plane, or do a cross-country drive behind a log truck?
Oh, cross-country drive behind a log truck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.